All right, now let's talk about how to document in MLA format, excuse me. So why do we document sources in MLA? MLA stands for Modern Language Association, so basically a bunch of people got together and decided this is how we would cite for the humanities, like English. But there are other kinds of citation like APA if you take a psychology class, or Turabian if you take a history class or something like that. We're going to be working exclusively with MLA in this class. So we document sources to give credit where credit is due. We want to avoid plagiarism, okay? Also to establish yourself as a careful scholar and to give readers access to the sources you cite. So let's say you used a source and I thought it was really interesting and I wanted to be able to read it. I should be able to look at your documentation and follow your footsteps to find the article myself. Now, documentation is going to work two ways. The first one is an in-text citation like we talked about last week. And it looks like this. Okay, quote, I really like this sentence, end quote. You have your author's last name, in this case it's Murdoch, and then a page number. I left out a page number here purposefully because a lot of your sources won't necessarily have them. Okay, you usually use page numbers with books, and not many students use books anymore. So if you use a website or if you use an article that doesn't have page numbers, this is how it would look. In addition to your in-text citation, you also have a works cited page, and a works cited page will give readers full bibliographic information. Okay, information such as the author's name, the title of the work, if there's a title of an article, and publication information, like if it came from Newsweek or USA Today or I don't know, Glamour Magazine or what have you, the date that was published, any volume and issue, or however they would organize their series of articles, and any page numbers. Now do be aware, if a source is in your works cited page, it has to be in the text of your paper. Okay, and if it is in the text of your paper, it has to be in the works cited page. You can't have them just in one place but not in the other. If it's in one, it has to be on the other. Otherwise, that is plagiarism. Let's take a minute and look at a sample works cited page if we could. Let's turn to page 233 in your quick access. Okay. On page 233, here's a sample works cited page. Here are some things that I want you to notice. Number one, please notice that the margins are 1 inch all the way around, just like your paper should be, okay? If you are using a 2010 version of Microsoft Word, you'll probably have to change that because I think it defaults to 1.25, and you just want 1 inch. Also, please notice that it's in alphabetical order by the author's last name. So if we look at it, we have Brown, Allen S. as our first author. The next two down are simply a dash, dash, dash. That means they were also written by Brown, Allen S. Okay, so you have Brown, Carey, and then Cleary, and then Flora. It's in alphabetical order. Okay, if you don't have an author, if you use a website that doesn't have an author, or if you have an article that doesn't have an author, you would use the title of the article or the title of a website instead. Okay, do notice that when you're alphabetizing, you don't alphabetize by articles like A, and the, whatever the case may be. Don't alphabetize by those. Alphabetize by sort of the first bigger word that you have. Also, please notice the entire page is double-spaced between entries. Everything is double-spaced. Notice that your entries are indented after the second line. So if we look at our example, our first example, we have Brown, Allen S., the Deja Vu Experience, Essays in Cognitive, and that's as far out as it has gone. That means, you know, when you're typing your paper and it just sort of goes to the next line by itself, that's what has happened here. So you type and type and type until it hits itself down to the next line. Once you've got all of your bibliographic information for one article, you'll want to do what is called a hanging indent. And you do that by putting your cursor, if we look at our example, you would put your cursor at the end of cognitive. So you'd put your cursor at that E, and then you hit enter, and then you hit the tab key, and that's going to give you your hanging indent. Okay. Please notice that your last name and page number is still in the top right-hand corner, just like it should be on all of your essays. So if I wrote a 3-page paper and a works cited page, my work would go Murdoch 1, Murdoch 2, Murdoch 3, and then my works cited page would be Murdoch 4. I would suggest that you go ahead and keep your works cited page in the same document that you are doing your essay in. Otherwise, what can happen is the students will forget to upload that, and you don't want that because that would be a 0 for your paper. Okay, so I would suggest you keep it in the same document. It helps with keeping your pages in order, and it helps keep everything in one place, so it's harder to lose. The other thing to notice is that at the top it says works cited. It doesn't say bibliography or anything like that. It's not bold, it's not italicized, it's just centered. That's the only thing special about it. Okay, page 233 is going to be really important to you. So if I were you, I would mark it, I would bend down the page number or put a post-it or something, because you're going to come back to this several times throughout the semester. All right, let's look at how you cite a book. Okay, you want to start out with your author. In this case, it's Davis, Barber, because we want the last name first. And then we have the title of the book. In this case, the Evaluation of Composition Instruction. You definitely want to italicize titles of books. And then we have New York, and New York is the place that it was published. It's usually New York or Boston or London or something like that. And then we have a colon, and then we have our publisher. In this case, it's Teachers College Press. Okay, and then we have the year that it was published, and in this case it's 1987, and then you put a period. You want to also put the word print. We put print because that means it's a tangible book. You could physically hold it. Okay, so anytime you have a book like that you got from the library or that you have at your home, you would write print after that. Okay. There's an additional example on page 206 that I would like to go through with you, so you can have an example in your book. Okay, if you look at page 206 at the very bottom on number 23, you see a book with one author. I'm going to run through and tell you what these are again. If I were you, I would write this in your book since you can't sell it back anyway, but it's up to you. So we have Turkle, Sherry, and that's our author's last name and our author's first name. And then we have Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. That's going to be the title of your book. And titles of books, again, are always italicized. And then we have New York, which is the location that it was published. You can always find that information on the first or second page of your book. And then Basic is the publisher, so it's Basic or Pearson or whatever, or Knopf, or whoever your publisher may be. And then you write the year that it was published. In this case, it's 2011. And then you write a period, and then you write the word print, because it's a print book. Okay? The other, another example that I want to talk to you about is an article from a database, because my guess is that's what most of you are going to use, okay? So how do you do one from a database? You start out with the author, just like always. So we would start out, Walstad, William is the author's last name and first name. And then we have Improving Assessment in University Economics. Now that is the title of your article. Titles of articles always go in quotation marks. Do you notice your period goes inside the quotation mark? So it's, quote, Improving Assessment in University Economics, period, quotation mark. The Journal of Economic Education is the publication, and publications are going to be italicized. Publications are things like journals or magazines or newspaper. So wherever your article came from, whatever journal or magazine or newspaper, that's what you would put there, and that is always italicized. 32.3 is the volume and the issue. Okay, if you want to write volume and issue because it helps you stay organized, you're welcome to. I'm happy as long as you just have the numbers. Okay, so whatever the volume dot issue. If they format a different way, if they have a volume and a number or whatever, that's what you would put. Keep in mind that not all databases will have articles with those, so sometimes you just leave that part. You just pretend that it's not even there, okay? Don't make up volumes and issues, okay? And then you have a publication date. In this case, it's 2001. If you don't have a publication date, you can sometimes write ND for no date if you are interested in doing that, okay? And then you have 281 to 94, and those are your page numbers. If you are working with an article that does not have page numbers, don't make page numbers up. Just write NP for no page. Okay, and then you write the database that you got your information, that you got your article from. In this case, we have ProQuest, okay, or it's SIRS, or it's JSTOR, or it's EBSCOhost, or wherever it is that you're looking, okay. And then you write the word web because you accessed it online, and then you write the date that you found it. In this case, we have 18 February 2004, so that would be the date that we found it. Now if we could, turn to page 201. I want to show you an example from your book. We're going to look at number 2, and here we have Williams, Bronwyn T. So that's our author's last name and first name. And then we have the article, Seeking the New Worlds, the Study of Writing Beyond Our Classrooms. That's an article title, and those are always in quotes. And then we have College Composition and Communication. This is the publication that our article came from. So it's the journal or the database, it's the journal or the newspaper or the magazine. And then we have our volume and our issue. 61 is our volume and number 1 is our issue. We have the date that it was published, which is 2010. And we have our page numbers, 127 to 46. We have our database. In this case, it says ProQuest. And then we write web because we got it online. And then we write the date that we found it. Okay. Now, if we could, let's look at a source without an author. Okay. Especially if you use a website, a lot of them won't have authors. So let's look at what we've got here. We have Squeezing the Poor for Votes, and that is the title of your article. We're going to assume you didn't have an author. And then will you tell us where you got it from? So New York Times on the web, or procon.org, or wherever you may have found this. Okay? And then you write the date that it was last updated. In this case, it's 18 February 2004. You can find that date. If you scroll to the very bottom of the website, they'll have a copyright date. And so that's where you can take that. And you write web, obviously, because you got it online. And then you write the date that you found it. Okay? Again, since you don't have an author, you would alphabetize by the first word that's not an article. In this case, it's squeezing. All right? And while MLA does not ask for URLs, I would be grateful if you would please include it in your Works Cited page, because that way it's easier for me to follow your footsteps. So if you have made a mistake, I can go back and figure out why you did what you did and how we need to correct that error. So if you would be so kind as to include that, I would be grateful. I'd like to look at another example now. This is on page 215 of Quick Access. We're going to look at number 71, a page from a website. Okay. If you look around 71, there are also other, like how to do an entire website, how to do a home page, how to do a variety of online sources. Right now we're just going to look at number 71 because that's what students tend to use most. Alright, so we're going to assume that we don't have an author. If you do, great, go ahead and put it, but we're going to work with just the article for now. In this case, it's Protecting Whales from Dangerous Sonar. Do notice that your punctuation is inside your quotation marks. And then you have where it came from. The National Resources Defense Council are the people putting out this information. And then you give us the acronym, the NRDC. And then the 9 November 2005 is the date that it was last updated. Again, you can find that by scrolling to the bottom. And then you write the word web because you got it online. And then you write the date that you found it. Okay, so when you do your in-text citation, if this were your source, you could just do Protecting Whales as your in-text, and that would be fine. All right, so let's talk just a touch more about in-text citations. You use them when you quote or summarize or paraphrase, like we learned last week. Something to notice is that your punctuation goes at the end of your parentheses. Okay, so you'll have your quote or your paraphrase, and then it says parentheses, Murdoch, in parentheses, period. You want to make sure you keep that punctuation on the outside of the parenthesis, okay? All right. Sometimes there are some special cases that can be a little bit tricky. A source with an unnamed author, which is what we just talked about. Another one is a work by 4 or more authors. If that's the case, you don't have to list all of your authors, especially some studies have like 27 authors. Don't list all of those. What you would want to do is put the first author, in this case it's Brady, and then ETAL. And the Brady et al. Means basically Brady and lots of other authors that I'm not going to name. Okay, and then you write the page number. I'm going to let you look at numbers 27 and 28 on page 208 for more examples of a work by 2 authors and a work by 3 authors and that sort of thing. Finally, there is a sample essay with correct citations on pages 225 to 234 in quick access. If you want to give that a look, you're welcome to. And if you have any questions about citation, please ask me. It's really important that you understand how to do this and how this works. So if you're ever not sure, please ask.